Is this thing on? Test, test. Hey guys, so y'all know who I am, Stasha, live and in the flesh. Okay, so I've been thinking about kind of coming to you guys and sharing some things about me that are important. And my main goal for doing this is, I guess, to shed light on a situation as it pertains to myself. But not only that, my driving force for doing this was just the thought that it may be able to help somebody that's going through similar situations. So, as you guys already know, if you don't know, I was diagnosed with a major depressive disorder and anxiety, and I live it. You know, some days are better than others, and some days are really, really hard. But I'm gonna go into detail. I'm gonna dig deep. I probably might ugly cry on here, but it's okay. You know, I think that by me doing this, it's going to help, you know, me work on my issues as well, but to bring this situation into light. That's like my main goal. So I'm gonna give you guys the background, and this isn't all gonna be just a one video thing. I'm gonna come in and do checkups and, you know, let you guys know the real. If I'm not feeling it, I'm not faking the funk, I will let you guys know. So a little background. I'm 31 years old. I was born in Compton. I am from Compton. I've lived a lot of places, almost everywhere pretty much. When I was like 8 years old, we moved to Lake LA, and we stayed there for a little while. Then we moved to like Little Rock, and after that we moved to Miami, and I loved it. It was amazing. I didn't want to go at first, but you know, Mama said you gotta go, you gotta go. I've always considered myself to be very resilient because that's the type of person my mom was. It wasn't until we moved to Florida that I ever saw my mom struggle, and the struggle became real to me because in my mind, yeah, we weren't rich by any means. My mom raised 4 kids on her own. We weren't rich by any means, but we didn't want for anything. I mean, like, we didn't need for anything. Of course we wanted for things because we're kids, and that's just how kids' brains are wired, but we didn't ever need for anything. We always had what we needed, and there was always a lot of love to be found in my home growing up, even with just my mom there. So I am the second oldest of 4 kids. My oldest sister's Quanisha, my little big sister Symphony, and my baby brothers Rashawn. And I do have other brothers and sisters on my dad's side, Nicole, and she's my older sister. And then I have my other younger brother who's older than my baby brother, Eric. But yeah, anyways. So in my household, it was the 4 of us. Standard childhood, you know, we had fun. Like, we were outside and playing. My mom made sure we learned responsibilities, the importance of all that stuff. Yeah. I want to say our first dose of reality was when we moved to Miami, and shit just got real. Like, there was a point in time where we had gone from living in Little Rock. We had a 4-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms. We literally had our own cabinets with our food in it, and nobody else was supposed to eat that. You know, supposed to, not supposed to, but that's how things were. And when we got to Miami, it was real. Like, it was a rough situation getting there, but we got there, and we went from having everything that we ever needed, to living in motels, living in a RV on the side of the street, like across from some auto repair shops. And we would go and like get water from the Y at night because we didn't have running water, we didn't have food, nothing. I remember times where we went to like Winn-Dixie, across the street from churches in Florida, and we would literally go into the store just to eat because we didn't have any money. So we would go in the store, eat, and walk the fuck out because we just didn't have it. And I know my mom felt bad about the situation, but I really don't believe that it was her fault. You know, it happened, and we all survived. Like we would go to the beach during the day to avoid being seen because we were supposed to be in school, but in order to enroll in school you gotta have an address, and we didn't have an address. So once we got in school, we lived in a small efficiency, like a one-room efficiency with like 5 people. It was hectic and hot. Whew, it was hot. And then we moved to like a duplex, which is where we stayed out the majority of our time in Florida. It was rough, but everything that we experienced in Florida, I wouldn't take back because we were pretty wasteful. Like before we went there, we were pretty damn wasteful kids, and you know, we kind of just thought that this is how things go. Like we're supposed to have this. Like we have this entitlement, and that taught us that nothing's promised, and whatever you have, you need to work for it and appreciate it. So I really buckled down in school and handled shit. Like I was getting good grades and doing everything, and at the beginning of my senior year, my mom decided she'd had it, she'd missed California, and we were going back. I was not happy because everything was set up in such a way that in Florida, once you have like anything over a 3.0 GPA, like you're in there. You are like going to college, like your acceptance is there. And they had scholarships lined up and stuff, and you know, I would have had a full ride if I had stayed. And of course I had a boyfriend, and I was in fucking love. Hello, I was in love with him. Okay, so she just came in and busted up my whole relationship and stuff, and we ended up moving back. So we moved back in the beginning of senior year, and we stayed with my grandparents back in Little Rock. So I graduated from Little Rock High School, class of 06. And I did pretty well. You know, it was different coming back because I knew some of the people that were there, but getting back, you know, after being in Florida for so long, things were changed. Like when we left, I was at Armadale, and I liked white guys, and I was like, oh, he's really cute. And once we got to Florida, I was like, that's a Haitian guy right there. Oh, he cute. So we kind of just like got into like the real, you know, got back to our roots. And I met some really amazing people out there. Some of them I do still keep in contact with today. But we came back. So after high school, graduated, boom, I did get some scholarships. I got accepted into Cal State LA. Went to Cal State LA for a long ass time and didn't fucking graduate because I was doing stuff that I, you know, typical college students do. I don't drink or smoke or anything. I didn't do that then. I don't do it now. But I was distracted because this was the first time that I was able to like have some freedom. My mom was very strict on us. I feel like she's really strict on me. But she was very strict when it came to my academics. So I didn't get to really do that stuff. Like towards like the end of senior year, I was allowed to date, and you know, I had a boyfriend before then, but I was allowed to date and stuff. So boom. So go to Cal State LA. Then I get caught up in some drama with my cousin, and this lady is well older than me. She asked me to be an in-home care provider for her boyfriend. Long story short, I got caught up because she cashed some checks that had come in my name, and I caught the rap for it. So I fought the case for almost 2 years, and I lost big time. So I dropped out of college because in my mind and my thought process was, who would hire me as an educator of young children with a misdemeanor fraud charge on my record. I was devastated. So that still haunts me today. I do have to disclose that on applications, but eventually my cousin did come clean about the situation. She's passed away now, God rest her soul, but she's passed away, and she came clean, and she did make the effort to pay the money that she stole back, but by then the damage was already done. I have this on my record now, and it's just been an uphill battle since then. So it's been working little jobs here and there, this and that, and just trying to make ends meet. So when I finally got some footing, I was able to get a second job and get my own place. I was very ecstatic, and I did this all within like the span of a month. After working the second job for a month, I had enough money saved up to where I would be able to get my own place. So I moved into my little apartment in Long Beach, and it was a box, literally, but it was mine. It was my box. And things were going great. I met this, I was dating somebody, but whatever. I met this guy that I was actually his server at Fridays. And I was like, oh, he's cute, but I got a boyfriend, so I'm not really gonna go there. Long story short, he asked me for my number. I told him no, because I did have a boyfriend, but he gave me his number. And I think it was like right after that my car broke down or something, and I called my boyfriend, and he just was like, I can't come, whatever. So I go, and he helps me, whatever. We get things taken care of, and we kind of start hanging out. And I did like him, but he just was a little too clingy for me. So around this time, like, my mom was diagnosed when I was like 8-9 years old with lupus. And lupus is an autoimmune deficiency disease. So like, it basically takes your white blood cells, which are the healers, and turns them against each other or weakens them, and your body can't fight off infections, so you're susceptible to other infections and other diseases. So it just would kind of snowball. So there would be days where my mom literally had no energy. She couldn't really get up and move and stuff, and I was always down for my mom. Like, if she needed something, I would help her. I would take her to her doctor's appointments and what have you. Whatever she needed, I made sure I made time to do that. So around this time, she started getting a little sick, and we kind of noticed her like kind of bumping into things, running into things shortly before that, and we didn't think anything of it. Now come to find out, she had I think 2 small strokes, and like, that was alarming, but it was like, okay, well, she's fine, so we're good, there's nothing to worry about. I think the day was January 9th, 2014. She had a massive stroke, and this is where my whole life starts to get flipped upside down. So my mom has the stroke. She's taken to the hospital, and she's put into emergency surgery. They have to remove a skull plate to relieve the tension and swelling in her brain, because she had the stroke on the left side of her brain, and her right side was paralyzed. So whichever side you have the stroke on, it affects the opposite side. So she had the stroke on the right side of her brain, actually, sorry, and then her left side was paralyzed. And I just cried. I remember getting the call. I was at PLS in Linwood. I was working there at Plaza Mexico, and I got the call, and I left in a panic. I didn't really understand what was going on, but she had a major stroke, and there was bleeding on the brain. So I went and I stayed out there all night with her. By the time I got to the hospital, she was stabilized, but the doctors came in and pretty much told me that she may never regain full function, but it's touch and go at this point, because she didn't have a minor stroke. It was a hemorrhagic stroke. Hemorrhagic, I can't remember how to pronounce it, but it's basically a hemorrhaging of blood vessels in your brain. So that in itself was hard. This is my best friend. Like, that's my boo. Yes, I had that tattoo before when I was like 18, and I added to it since then to reflect her dates and everything. But it was rough. So that was like in January. They moved her after she had the skull plate removed. They moved her to a hospice, and I was able to go and see her every now and then. Now by this time, things in the previous relationship that I had ended. I was now dating someone else. It's actually the guy that I had met at Fridays. That was my customer. So we were dating, and I think by this time I'd asked him to move in. So it was really quick, I know, but that's what I wanted, and that's what he allowed to happen. So he moves in, everything's going good with us, and you know, he's there for me. He's there for me when my mom had the stroke, and you know, just to console me. He had met my mom a couple times, and you know, he was also pretty affected by it too. So that happens. We're living together, and I think it was like early July, I want to say, I found out I was pregnant. Oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. And now up until this point, I had been led to believe that I was not able to have children because I had had 2 surgeries before this, which were basically, the doctors thought that there was a possibility that I had cervical cancer, and that's tough. You know, at like 18, 19, like I wasn't out there. I've never been that type to, you know, be out there dotting and bopping, but you know, it happened, and I had to have the surgeries, and I was told that they were to remove some stuff and, you know, to biopsy to make sure that the cells that they found in the irregular path were not cancerous. So, but you know, when you remove something, your body doesn't always like rebuild it. It doesn't automatically regenerate, especially cervical tissues. So, I had never been pregnant before then. I was definitely getting it in, definitely. But I'd never been pregnant before then, so to even take a pregnancy test and it ends up positive, I was ecstatic. So I have my first little ultrasound or whatever, and we see the gestational sac and everything, and I don't know what to look for. You know, I don't know. I've never been, this is my first rodeo. I've never been pregnant before. And 2 weeks later, I have bleeding. And I go back to the hospital, and I'm just stressing because it's like, this is my first time being pregnant. Is it true that I can't have kids? This, and that. So I go to the hospital, and they test the HCG levels, which is the human growth hormone, which is basically, that's supposed to double every day in the beginning of the pregnancy. And those HCG levels just weren't rising. So they told me at that point that this is not a viable pregnancy, and unfortunately, you've miscarried. So we're gonna have to do a procedure, which is basically an abortion. It's a DNC, dilation and curettage, where they dilate you and, you know, get the baby, the gestational sac and everything out. So I was devastated, and I couldn't stop crying. And I had actually made it out to tell my mom that I was pregnant, and she was ecstatic. Like, I was the only one of her girls who didn't have any kids at that point, so she was happy. Like, she had asked me to like tape the pregnancy test on the wall in her room. It was crazy. So she was happy, and by the next time I went to go visit her, I had to break the news to her that I had lost a baby. And we both cried there together. My mom was paralyzed, so she wasn't able to speak. She had a trach in her throat to assist with breathing, and you know, she had started to regain some function, but she still wasn't herself. But she was happy when I saw her. Like, she was, you know, smiling, laughing, talking. Well, not talking, but making noises, you know, to, you know, indicate how she was feeling, I guess. But she took it pretty rough. So on September 2nd, I started with Metro, and this was my first week. Everything's going good, la 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 la. September 7th, I still haven't gotten a period. and I had the DNC over a month ago, and I'm just like, I don't know. They told me I might not get a period, but let's see what happens. Okay, so my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, Sally, says, I'm pretty sure you're pregnant. You should probably get a pregnancy test. I know you're pregnant. I was like, okay, are you a doctor, nigga? Like, what the fuck? You're not a doctor. You don't know me. You don't know my body. So I went and got a pregnancy test, and it was positive. Oh my God. A month later, it was positive. So I'm just like, okay, cool. I'm excited. Let's do this. I'm happy. I can't wait to tell my mom, like, I'm pregnant again, and we'll make it work out this time. I don't know how, but God is not going to put more on me than I can bear, because I just had a miscarriage last month. That was September 7th or 7th on my grandma's birthday. So I was supposed to go and see my mom that weekend, but I decided we have been working so much, we didn't really have a chance to like hang out. So I decided I'm gonna take my boyfriend out to dinner, and we didn't go. And to this day, I regret not going, because this would have been the last time I would have gotten to see her. September 15th, 2014, the worst fucking day of my life. I get a phone call while we're at a clinic in Torrance, confirming this new pregnancy and, you know, getting all the details and everything. So I get a phone call, and it's my oldest sister, Nene. And Nene's like, I need you to come out here. Something happened. Mommy had another stroke, and I just need you to come. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me what happened. Is she okay? She was just like, I need you to come. She wouldn't really say much. And it never dawned on me. It never dawned on me that my worst fear would come true. She asked me if my boyfriend could come, and I told her, you know, he had gone to work and he wasn't gonna be able to come. But here I was, just starting Metro, and Metro was like stupid strict. So I was scared to even say anything to them, because I'm like, I'm gonna get fucking fired. I just started, I quit both of the jobs that I had, and I'm in training. It's my second week of training. So I let them know, and they excused me for the day. I drove out there, and I had a conversation with one of my co-workers that turned into a friend. Her name's China, and China just told me maybe this was God's way of, you know, making a way for you to have that baby that you love. Maybe your mom, you know, gave her life so that you can have this. And I don't know where she got that wisdom from or anything, because I didn't know at the time that my mom had passed away. But that, I feel like in a way that kind of calmed me and soothed me. And I wasn't thinking that that's what happened, but it kind of prepared me for it in a way. So when I got to the hospital, everybody's there. I'm the last person to get there because I'm all the way in LA. And she's at Palmdale Regional. So I get out the hospital, I get out the car, I fly into the hospital, and my sister's very calm, walking me towards the back of the hospital where they had the room. And I'll never forget the day. I walked in to the room, and it's dead silence. I don't hear the ventilator machines, I don't hear the heart monitor, I don't hear anything. And I walked over to the bed, and I asked my sister, how was she? And to which she replied, she's gone. I lost it. Immediately, I like collapsed on the floor, and I lost it. I don't know how else to explain it. Even to this day, like almost 6-7 years later, I'm still affected by it. And I feel like this is where things took a turn for me. So, nobody else knew that I was pregnant at this time. I had just received confirmation from a doctor that I was pregnant, and it hurt. And I cried all the way home. You know, like when I went to say my like final goodbyes, I just went over and I just kissed my mom on the forehead, and you know, like I just told her that I loved her, and I was happy that she didn't have to suffer anymore, because she was suffering. Like, my mom had a long list of ailments. She was terminally ill. My mom died and she was like 56 years old. It was hard. So I go home and like I let my husband know my mom passed, and he was still at work. He hadn't gotten home yet. And I get home and I go to the bathroom and I am bleeding. Like, it's not like a little drop of blood, like it's a good amount of blood. So on top of losing my mom now, I'm going to the hospital now because I think that I'm miscarrying again. So I go to the hospital, my husband meets me up there, and I'm there all night. But I'm still studying because I'm employed by Metro. So I'm still studying, I'm there, and we do several ultrasounds, we do blood work and everything, and they take me back to triage. Once they get me back there, the doctor tells me, yeah, so it looks like this, you have a positive pregnancy test, and unfortunately at this time, it looks like you are miscarrying. And well, he says first, he says, it's probably just residual. You said you had a miscarriage last month, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, well, it's probably just residual material left over from the previous pregnancy that's still giving you a positive. But I was like, that's not possible. I've taken several pregnancy tests in between the miscarriage and this other pregnancy, and those were negative. So he was like, well, if you are pregnant, you're having another miscarriage, so just prepare yourself for that. And I'm like, I told him straight to his face, the devil is a lie. Okay, I am not having another miscarriage, because I know my God wouldn't do that to me. I know he wouldn't do that to me. I had a miscarriage last month. My mom passed away today, and you gonna tell me I'm having another miscarriage today? No, he's not gonna do that to me. He would never. That's just too much to bear. So, we had seen something on the ultrasound, and my husband asked what that was. That was actually the baby, and they were just trying to tell us like, oh, that's nothing. It's just like a little dot that's on the ultrasound. It's nothing. So I had to go back 2 days later, and they did blood work again, and HCG levels were rising. So I was hopeful, and throughout that time, I didn't allow myself to grieve. And this is where I kind of feel like I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, because I didn't allow myself to grieve my mom's death, and I just applied myself to work. So in between training for Metro, learning all this stuff, you know, getting my CDLs and everything, in between doing all that, I'm dealing with a pregnancy, and my body's changing, and I'm having all of these emotions and hormones and stuff, but I am so scared to let myself feel that pain of losing my mom. Like, this is my best friend. She taught me everything except for how to live without her. But to go through that, and then, you know, be pregnant and stuff, and worry that if I let this stress out and let this grief out, it's going to cause that reaction to where it's too stressful for me, it's too traumatic, and I'm gonna lose the baby. So I didn't grieve my mom's death. I cried, but I didn't fully allow myself to grieve. I didn't see a grief counselor. I didn't see any of that. I didn't seek medical attention for that, or psychiatric attention, I should say, for that, because in that space, like, my mind was everywhere. That picture right there on the wall is from our wedding day when we got married at the courthouse. And there's people looking back that I didn't even invite to the wedding. I should have invited them, but I wasn't in my right mind state. So, I mean, it happened. So, we end up finding out that we're having a girl, and we named her Mia, which is wish for a child. And we named her that because we did wish for her, and it just made me feel so much closer to my mom. So we have the baby, and everything goes pretty smooth with the birth and everything. She was delivered vaginally. They did have to suction, but you know, she came, and it was okay. When we got home, I mean, it was rough. And there were times where I would literally sit there and cry because Sally had to go back to work. It was either that or lose his job because he was new on the job, so he didn't qualify for a paternity leave or FMLA. So I would sit there and cry because there was nobody that I wanted to talk to more than my mom, and she was not there. Like, I couldn't call her. I couldn't ask for help from her. I probably could have called my sisters. Hindsight is better than, hindsight vision 2020, whatever. So I probably could have called them, and I did call my sister once, my oldest sister, but I wanted my mom. That's who I wanted. So I ended up having to go back to work after 6 weeks, and that was rough. But my grandma had moved in downstairs, and she watched our daughter for us while I went to work, and that worked out fine. But I started to notice things were changing. I felt like my husband had become not my enemy, but I felt like he wasn't really there for me, because there would be times where I felt like I was doing this by myself. Like, I know he was working, I know he was tired, but I'm tired too, and I decided to breastfeed, so that's work in itself. But I felt like we kind of lost a key element in our relationship, and we were constantly fighting and going back and forth. So I had started just feeling very alone, and just by myself. So it wasn't until she was about 6 months old that I realized, I did some research and just started reading up about things. Now, like I said, I've never been one to succumb to stuff and let it affect me. I've always just been like, okay, well, it happened, whatever, we just move on, But after this point, I literally felt like, I remember my manager at Fridays, before he left, Russell told me, dang, you just been, are you okay? You've just been, getting hit from every angle, back to back. Are you okay? I was numb at that point. I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. But I wasn't. I wasn't fine by any means. And I never was one to believe in anxiety, depression, postpartum depression, baby blues. I was like, that shit is some shit that people made up, and it's not fucking true. Put your big girl panties on and get the fuck over it. Until I hit this point in my life, I decided something's not right. I feel like I'm here, but it feels like an outer body experience. It feels like I'm watching myself go through the motions. Feed the baby, change the baby's diaper, cook for my family, clean up, go to work. Same thing over and over and over. It felt like I was going through those motions, but I wasn't there. And I remember one of my co-workers, who also turned into a friend, Lucy. What's up, girl? She told me, damn, Sasha, you're strong. And I just remember being taken aback by that, and I was like, I don't feel strong. I just said thank you to her, but in my heart, I'm like, I don't feel strong. I feel very weak, very vulnerable, very lost right now. So I decided to go and see a doctor. And it was one session that I went to, and they wanted to put me on all these medications and all this stuff. Now, for those of you who don't know, in the Black community, when somebody says, I have anxiety, I have depression, or I have mental health issues, it's automatically like, that motherfucker crazy. Like, he got real issues, or she got real issues. We kind of just, there's that stigma in our community that we're just like, those things don't exist. You do what you have to do and move on. But that's what I was taught, of course, from my mom. I never saw her sweat like that. Not until we moved to Florida. I never saw my mom sweat. And even then, she still found a way to work it out. So I'm thinking that that's what you're supposed to do. That's what a strong Black woman is. You deal with the shit. Strap up your boots and deal with the shit. But when it got to the point where I felt like I couldn't deal with it, like I didn't have suicidal thoughts or anything. I didn't really get to that. But I just knew something wasn't right. When I got to that point and I saw the doctor, you know, it was like a huge wake-up call for me. They did diagnose me with major depressive disorder. I didn't have the diagnosis for anxiety just then, but it was depression. So it was causing problems, disrupting everything in my life. Like, it's like this little, well, not little, it's like this huge ass fucking category 6 hurricane that just comes in and just tears up everything. And it's beautiful and it's calm before the storm, but in the midst of it, it's rough. And they wanted to put me on all these medications. I was breastfeeding, so I just was like, I'm not coming back here. This was a waste of my time. Like, I can beat this. I got this. Like, I can do this. I'm not the first person who has depression. I'm not the only person. If other people can overcome it without, like, pharmaceutical intervention, I can do it too. So I left, and I didn't come back. I was like, I'm not taking no medicine. I'm breastfeeding. Like, I don't want my baby to have those drugs in her body and stuff. So I just left. I didn't go back until later. And I refused. So I put back on that brave face and, you know, bear through everything. And then, you know, we started getting a little bit more financially stable. We stayed with my in-laws for a second, and then we moved to Lancaster. We got ourselves another place, and we're starting to do better. And then I find out while I was watching Teen Mom OG, Macy asked her husband if she looks fat, blah blah blah. And long story short, she took a pregnancy test, and she's like, "Oh, it's positive, I'm pregnant." So during the commercial break, I was like, "I'm gonna go take me a pregnancy test too. I got one laying around here. Shit, what the hell? Just do it for the fun of it." That fucking pregnancy test came back positive, and I was crying. I was really upset because I wasn't ready to have another baby at that time. Like, Mia had just turned 1 in May, and here it is September 12th, and I find out I'm fucking pregnant. So I was upset, and the pregnancy test came back positive, and I was just more so worried about going down that same path again with the whole the pregnancy. I know my pregnancies are always going to be high risk because of those 2 surgeries that I had before, and I know how much stress now a baby brings and puts on a relationship. And we wanted another baby for sure, but we just weren't ready at that time. So I did everything that I thought I possibly could to fight off what I felt like was impending doom. And that impending doom was the postpartum depression coming back for round 2. Because I already got beat the fuck up the first time, and I feel like it's coming back for sure. So, Jalen's pregnancy was complicated. I was in and out of the hospital. He was very low sitting. There would be times where I felt like he was just about to just fall out. And not even like that, but it just felt like so much pressure there. Like, it felt like he was gonna come out. So, my water breaks 6 weeks early. And we go to the hospital. and I ended up having to have an emergency C-section. I cried because I didn't want to be cut. And he comes out, nothing wrong with him, 4 pounds, 4 ounces, 4 pounds, 1 ounce, born 4/10 at 4:01 p.m. And he's just a greedy little thing. And, you know, that whole situation was so different from my first experience giving birth. But I felt like I was robbed of that experience because they just had to, like, start of the Pitocin the day that I got there, which was on a Saturday. They made me wait until Monday. I felt like the birth would have went a lot better, and I possibly could have had a vaginal delivery and not have to go through a C-section, which is hell. But needless to say, he made it here. He's great, and I love my son. But after that, like, I want to say maybe 2 weeks. First 2 weeks were good. Sally goes back to work, and he's a lot more supportive this time with the baby, like helping out, making sure I'm okay, like taking care of us. So when I told him that I felt like the postpartum depression was coming back, we had a huge issue because he pretty much just told me to suck it up and get over it. And I was immediately enraged. Like, how fucking dare you tell me some shit like that? Like, are you serious right now? So I don't think he really understood the magnitude of it. So again, I went and I sought help with the wonderful therapist, Kathleen Cannon. And she was awesome. She referred me to a psychiatrist, and psychiatrist wanted to start me on medication, and again, I refused. So a little while later, I ended up seeing a different doctor and just explained to him, Dr. Lou, and explained everything to him. And, you know, he said something that made so much fucking sense to me that I was like, you got me. You got me. I can't argue with that logic. He said to me, so you've been dealing with the postpartum and depression, and now this new symptom, anxiety, this new diagnosis, anxiety, for a while now. But what have you done differently? Nothing. So in order to get a different result, you have to try something different. Let's just try medication and see what happens. And I did it. And he started me off on Trintellix. And I felt fine. So during that time, I was still, you know, I had started back working for Metro, and I had an accident. Well, not an accident. I had a situation on the bus, and I ended up passing out. And with passengers on my bus, I passed out. And it was scary. You know, like, it was scary. This was before I started the Trintellix, though. Honestly, let me backtrack that, because this is before I started the Trintellix, which is why I went to the doctor, Dr. Lou, and saw him and started on Trintellix, because basically they were saying I had a panic attack. And I didn't have any, you know, any experience with anything like a panic attack or anything. So he convinced me to start on the Trintellix, and I decided at that point that I could no longer work for Metro because they were threatening disciplinary action up to termination for both myself and my husband for me for missing work, because I fucking planned to come to work and pass out passengers on my bus. So they were telling me, yeah, you missed part of your shift and you missed the shift the next few days. So I had actually passed out twice. I had passed out that night, and then the next day while we were on our way to the urgent care to find out what was going on with me, because I did refuse to go to the hospital to be transported by ambulance. I did refuse. But a panic attack is like so scary. It's like you don't even know what's going on. Like, I felt like I was gonna die. Like, I couldn't catch my breath. It was crazy. I didn't like that feeling at all. So I started on the Trintellix and I started a new job. I got hired with AAA and I started working there, and I felt like everything was working out. I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. So my whole other stuff happens, you know. I don't work for Metro anymore, and I was getting the Trintellix under my medical. So we had to go through all the approvals all over again, and referrals and stuff to get the Trintellix. So I wasn't able to get it again because it had to have gone through my husband's insurance, who was still with Metro. And I was just like, okay, whatever. I stopped taking the medicine, and for a while I felt like I was doing okay. But as of late, I mean, like, I've never really felt like I was cured of it. But there's a song by this group called Crazy Town, and it's like, I think the song is called Black Cloud. And to me, that's what I feel like the depression is. Like, the depression is like this little black cloud that follows you around, and then at some point it just reaches out and it's just like, nope, you're mine, I'm gonna take you. And you go down this really, really dark path, you know. So now I feel like the new diagnosis, well, the latest diagnosis, because it's not new, the latest diagnosis with the anxiety, I feel like the depression is one thing, but the anxiety is a whole different ballgame. The anxiety, to me, is worse than the depression, because it makes you just tense and on edge about every little fucking thing. And it really is not a good feeling. Like, it was to the point, like, I still have it now, like, when I drive. I have really bad anxiety. So I drive a lot slower now. I used to, you know, dip in and out of lanes and stuff, and I was cool. But now I have anxiety. So if you get behind me and I'm driving a little slow, I'm sorry, because that's what I feel like I need to do to safeguard myself and my passengers. But it takes over, and I could be feeling totally fine 1 second, and there's a trigger, something that happens. I haven't figured out all of my triggers, not even close, because there's so many, but I know for sure loud noises is definitely one of my triggers. And I do mean like constant loud noises, not like fireworks or anything like that, but just like, I guess like my kids, like the crying, the whining, the screaming back and forth at each other, that makes me feel very anxious. And it's hard to deal with it because my youngest are 5 and 3. They don't understand that mommy has an issue and she can't really handle, you know, loud noises like that. The depression and anxiety manifests itself in so many different ways. I overeat. I don't sleep very well because my mind's constantly racing. Like, I feel like when I do lay down and I get to go to sleep, it's usually 4 to 5, 6 hours at the most that I get, and it's back up, and you know, I have things to do. Dealing with all of that, like, it makes me a very kind of crabby person, and I tell my husband a lot of the times, like, I feel like a big old bitch to you, and I'm sorry, I don't know what else to say. There's times where I snap at him. I snap at him because he may say something to me that just, in my mind, doesn't make any sense at all, and I'm just like, why would you even say something like that? And I'll snap. So we have a lot of arguments. When you're running off of like low energy and stuff, and you know, I feel very like lethargic. Like, I am most often tired. I don't want to really do anything, and I feel like it's like a box that I'm in, and you know, not many people come and visit my box. And then when I do have those times where I am social or I am able to interact with other people, it feels awkward now. Like, I used to be like a social butterfly, and I don't feel like I'm that person anymore. I feel like I've changed so much. Like, if I have any instances where I feel like a person is like coming for me, or if I feel like we don't agree on something, and you know, like, I feel like it's a personal attack, I will cut that person off with the quickness. And that's a problem because that's not how people should, you know, go about their lives. And it affects relationships that I have. My husband and I have been through serious issues together because of it. Another issue is that it's just really like depletes my sex drive. Like, I don't feel like that girl that I was when I was like, when we first started dating, you know, when I was like 25, 26, and I was just wild and just like, yeah, let's do it all the time. Fuck no. Like, and we argue about this, like, a lot. So that creates tension in our relationship. And I feel like there was a point in time where I didn't really know how to communicate that to him. So if I can't communicate that to him, then how can I expect him to understand it? But once I finally did communicate that to him and broke it down for him, and he's heard it from other people, like a therapist that I was seeing or whatever, or just programs that we watch, that, you know, these things can happen. He's become a lot more understanding. I mean, we still have issues. We're a married couple, of course we have issues. We're not perfect. And I think, for me, I always want to strive for perfection. And when I don't get that result, I feel down. And that's a trigger for me. Like, I feel like I'm not where I want to be. And only I can change that. Only we can change that. It's hard to deal with it and, you know, to live it every day. So I recently just started taking Trintellix again. Since this whole quarantine stuff, it's really like made my anxiety, my depression just like rise, and it's been rough. So with this new dose, I started taking it on this past Saturday, and I do feel it working already. Like, I feel a lot more positivity. I feel a lot more energized. I feel a little bit, and I'm happy about that. There are some things, you know, that I still get a little down about and stuff, but for the most part, I feel like I just gotta allow the medicine to do what it's gotta do, and that's gonna take time. It's only been a few days since I started back taking the Trintellix. I'm gonna keep you guys updated on how I'm feeling with that. But I feel like I have to do this so that I can get to a good place mentally for myself. There's things that I want to do, you know, and that depression just like kind of like takes you out of it. It's like you got the wind knocked out of you. That's how it feels like to have the depression. Like, you can't catch your breath if you're winded, you know, like you feel like you're being deprived of oxygen. And that's what the depression feels like. I feel for my kids, I want to be that amazing mom. I want to have those relationships that I have with my own mom. So in order for me to do that, I feel like I need to work on myself. So what my husband and I decided is that I'm going to work on myself. He's going to work on himself. And then we're going to come together and work on us as a unit. And we'll move forward from there. So I do thank you guys for watching. I will be back next week to give an update with how I feel about everything that's taking place. There are some things that are going on right now. I don't want to speak on those because I wanted to keep this video under an hour. But thanks for spending this time with me, guys, and listening to me as something that's very important for me. And if anybody has any questions for me, feel free, hit me up. I am an open book. I'm not the type of person that's uber private. I don't mind sharing anything. So if you got a question, ask me. But I hope that this video and the videos to come will help me and help other people in seeing that there's nothing wrong. You know, like it is okay not to be okay. And one day at a time, like, it will be better. It will be better. I'm gonna make sure of that, because this is like draining and I don't want to live like this forever, you know? So yeah. Alright guys, well thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Alright.